So for me to be able to come out of that, I did have to talk to, my mom, talk to my husband, like, hey, it's a lot. It's so much right now. And I just feel like I can't handle it all. So I talked to them and, they start helping out a little bit more. And it's like communication really does work when you use it.
Okay, talk about it. Communication.
Yeah, it does work when you use it. It's just, it is sometimes hard to accept that help or, say I need you.
Well, welcome back to another episode of Empowering Women of God. Our guest today is Mrs. Khadijah Hodges-Bonnom. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I don't want to butcher her name. She is a mom of two amazing girls. She has been married for 8 years to her husband. She's an educator. She is also on the path of pursuing her nursing degree. And of course, she is... the different hats that these women wear that come on this show is just phenomenal. And so we're going to delve a little bit deeper into a little bit more of Khadijah. Our main topic of focus will be about postpartum depression. And so hope you guys are geared up, ready, get your popcorn, sit down, relax, and take some notes. So Mrs. Khadijah, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for this answering the call to be on here.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So as we delve into who Khadijah is, I normally just ask my guests to give us a little background of, where they grew up, what's their family structure, life like, and just, what is it that you've always been here, a native to Houston, correct?
I've been in Houston since 2002.
Okay.
But,
Prior to that?
We moved a lot as a family, so when people ask where you're originally from, I always have a lot of questions, not questions, but a lot of answers. Like, oh, I've lived here, here, and here. So I say I'm from Houston because I've been here the longest.
Right.
We've lived in Orange. We've lived in San Antonio, Dilley, Texas.
Okay.
I was born in Killeen.
Okay. Okay. Is that Killeen?
Killeen, yeah, Killeen, Texas.
Texas, okay.
I've been in Texas my whole life, but Houston since 2002. So I claim Houston as
their home. Okay, we're claiming it for you as well. And I know you are also an Army wife, and
yes.
So with that, definitely comes traveling too, right?
No? We had one base. We went to one base. We was in Killeen.
Okay.
And I went back to where I was born, and I had my second child there. We spent 3 years there. So, we're not going back.
We're not going back. Okay, heard.
He's in the process of getting out, so we're here in Houston.
Okay,
we should
awesome.
be here for a while. So.
All right, well, Houston, we have a problem. We have an amazing problem. We got them here, and they're going to be doing some stuff in the region. So a little bit more on your role as a mom. I know, as we said, our topic is really about postpartum. And so you're a mom of two girls. Let's tell us about your girls and just, the journey into motherhood. What has that been like for you,
Oh, being a mom. You can say so many things about that,
Yes, indeed.
I have two girls. My oldest is 8. My youngest is just turned 4 in December.
Okay.
My oldest is 8, but a teenager.
Oh, I know. This generation.
She has those influences of, kids around her age and how they're growing up. It's kind of difficult to manage your household in this world, in this climate with, kids who are bringing other things to her attention. So you're like, hey, we don't do that. Right. She's learning those things, and you're like, hey, she's testing her boundaries, So I'm like, you're 8, but girl, you are not grown. You are not grown. Heard. My 4-year-old, she's just trying to figure out who she is. She's not really a people person.
Okay. That's okay.
She's not a people person, but, she's fun, funny, growing into her personality. Being a mom to them, and just in this day and age, it's an adjustment. You're learning your kids, you're learning how to adapt,
Right.
how to, make sure that you're leading them down the right path. Because a lot of people say there's no right way, there's
Right.
no wrong way to being a mom.
Right.
And you're like, I just want to make sure I'm doing my best.
Right.
In this climate and, things that we're going through recently and, things like that, you just try your best.
Yes. I thank you for highlighting that point, because as moms, sometimes I always tell my son, he's 8, I'm 11, my God, 8, he's 11. I always say to him, I said, there's no manual on being a parent. So I said, sometimes mommies are going to always get it right or say the right things, but it's a process. And I think you just highlighted the generation that we're in, where we have to parent differently. A lot of the things traditionally that we would have probably grown up on is not effective in this climate, because as you said, your 8-year-old is almost acting as if she's a teenager already because of the things that she's exposed to. And now you also navigating, like sharing what, talking her through some of the things that she's seen out there and learning.
Yes, right. You're hitting those points for me too.
Like, listen.
It's just, like you said, there's no manual. There's no manual. This is how I'm supposed to do things. You're like, hey, I'm learning along with you. Right. I'm learning still. You're 8, but I'm still learning how to be your mom.
Right.
At your age, as you get older, I'm forever be your mom.
Right.
So let's get that straight.
Let's focus on that.
I'm gonna always be your mom. But when you come to me with questions, I'm here to answer those the best way I can. And of course, using my resources I have, I always say, hey, if I don't know the answer, I'm gonna call somebody to find, ask them. If they don't know, we're gonna find a way to get the answer. So. So I always try to use that as, the catalyst for her coming to me with questions and trying to say, okay, well, if I don't know it, because, to me, I'm still young too.
Yes, she is young.
To me, I'm still young too. So I'm like, I don't know everything.
Right. And that's transparency. And I think a lot of times we don't give ourselves grace as parents, both mothers and fathers, because we're trying so hard to do the right thing, grow them up the right way in the right spaces, making sure we're being the right example. But I think it's become important for them to also see some of the things that we're not good at and acknowledging that, so that they themselves don't go through this process of trying to be someone who they're not, because it's not realistic to live up to that expectation that life is seamless, it's perfect, there are no problems, we don't get mad, it's a process. So I'm so happy you shared that. And so I really want to segue into when you started to experience, the effects of postpartum depression. For the audience out there, postpartum depression is really for moms who have, after having their child, do suffer through a few things that, and it's different for everyone. It's not the same. And so we're not labeling anyone, just so you know. This is just Khadijah sharing her experience. And so, just be mindful and just as you listen in, you might know someone who's experiencing that or see different signs. So just take some takeaways from this. And if you are a mom, just give yourself grace and know that you have support. So Khadijah, just, wherever you'd like to start, what was your first sign that you were experiencing that? And was it with your first child, the second?
So I think I had it both times, if I'm honest with you. But of course, both times they were in different degrees. So I'll start with my first one. So with my first child, I would say that my postpartum was more so, neglecting myself. And because you're a new mom, you're like, hey, I'm learning this. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm slightly confused. You're like, I don't know what to do next. It's like, okay, someone's depending on you for food, because I did decide to breastfeed.
Right.
I breastfed both my kids, but
right.
I breastfed, decided to breastfeed. I'm like, okay, this is new. I'm in pain. I'm hurting. Who can I talk to? And you're like, I'm trying to talk to my mom. And I'm like, and, you always get that story from your parent, like, oh, well, I've been through this. And you're like, okay, but you're not me.
Right. This is different.
That is like the main thing. I'm going through this. I'm not you. I handle things differently. And I'm like, I'm feeling some type of way. I don't know how to express this. And it did take me a while to realize that I was actually going through postpartum depression, because, when you're in it, it's hard to acknowledge that.
Right.
You're more so like, oh, I just don't feel like doing that, or I just don't want shower.
Right, right, right.
I just want to sleep. I just
Right.
want to, watch TV, or I just want to sit here, or I just want to be in the dark, or I just.
Right.
Then you're like, okay, well, this is baby that needs me, and you're like,
Right, and you're feeling all these different things, and it's
it's a pull. It's like a battle in between. Do I need to take care of myself, or do I need to take the baby? You neglecting yourself, for your child.
right.
And you're like, okay, well, my emotions are everywhere because you had a baby.
Right, of course.
Your emotions are
And your
everywhere.
body is still recovering from all of that.
Yeah, so your emotions, your hormones, everything's everywhere. So you're like, okay, I don't want to take a shower. I just want to sleep. Okay, I need to take care of the baby. So you kind of get almost robotic.
Right.
And then you're neglecting the people around you as well.
Wow.
So, like, I'm pretty sure my husband was like, girl, who are you?
Ooh.
Like, you're snappy. Yeah. You're like, okay, but it's mainly from you being tired. But,
right.
you're like, I'm here. I'm like, I'm
right.
moving. I'm going through the motions.
Right, right,
and it's
right,
like you're watching your life go on, and you're like, is that me?
Right. Wow.
Am I acting that way, like, to him?
Right. It's funny you said that because you had the power to ask yourself those questions. I have spoken to women who've experienced that, and some of them are just so far gone. They're just out of touch. They're just really not, I don't even care, like, really what's going on. Like, they'll even forget that the baby, they'll hear the cry, but it's like, and so as you are talking, I'm listening to you, and I'm like, God gave you some grace and something to give you an awareness of what was happening. So how did you transition throughout the whole, postpartum? Like, what was the final straw? Did you get help? Was anyone coming to you offering help? Did anyone notice? Like, what was that like? Because a lot of people I know, like, how do you deal with this? Like, why, they see you with a new baby, and there's so much critique on how to care of the baby. You should be doing this, and you're not doing this right, blah, blah, blah. How do you help? How did you get help?
So you did mention one good thing, with the critiquing and stuff, because, some people will try to help you and you're not receptive.
Ooh.
You're like, I understand you're trying to help, but I don't really want to hear that, or I don't want to do that.
Right.
You're like, I got this. And it's almost like being honest with yourself to know, hey, I do need help. Because sometimes, like, I'm fine. Like, that's everybody's favorite saying. I'm good. I'm fine.
And why
I'm
is that, though? Why is that? Like, if you're drowning, if you just had a newborn, I would think your mind would be like, hey, I need help. I need a community. So, what is...
See, I would say that that's different for everybody.
Right.
Their reasoning of just being like, I'm fine, but like, like they have that meme where it's like, I'm fine, but there's flames everywhere. It's like, I'm fine, but everything's on fire.
Right.
So for everybody, I feel like those reasons for them may be a little different. For me, I know I'm like, I'm fine, because at the moment, I just feel like I need to handle this.
Wow. That's a lot of power in that inner strength to say that.
Yeah, and I'm like, you can't handle this, but you're saying that you can. And why is that?
Right.
You don't know.
Right, exactly.
It's like you're just talking. So for me to be able to come out of that, I did have to talk to, my mom, talk to my husband, like, hey, it's a lot. It's so much right now, and I just feel like I can't handle it all. So I talked to them, and, they start helping out a little bit more. And it's like, communication really does work when you use it.
Okay, talk about it. Communication.
Yeah, it does work when you use it. It's just, it is sometimes hard to accept that help, or, say I do need that help.
Right.
So that, I didn't really have much resources when I went through it with my first.
Right.
It was kind of just, like I said, I felt like everything was on me.
Right.
Just, you need to do this. You need to make sure she's good. You need to. You was really what was in my head. Just know he can't do that. He can't be that for her. I need to be that for her.
Right.
So it's almost as if my identity took on my child's and not mine. So I was like lost. I lost. I was not winning that battle. So, with taking that, you have to, identify like, okay, I need to figure out how I can be happier. I need to figure out how, and it's hard to get back to that place. It's a lot of prayer, dedication to yourself, because, you have to make a promise to not only yourself, but to God.
Right.
And you have to stick through it, basically having a, why do I want to get over this? Or identifying, yes, I have this, how do I get better?
Right.
So
Well, how is the journey? I know your faith, when we spoke, you said your faith really got you through a lot of the difficult times. And so you were doing a lot of work internally, but I think that also is because you had some grace given to you to handle it and to know that you're able to handle some parts of it. And so you can just walk us through like what that moment when you realized that you needed to lean more into God and not, all the things that was happening, swirling around in your head. Like, what was that moment like, and what has your faith been like, since that?
for me, my moment was when I kind of had to take myself out of the equation. I had to, I'm home alone. Your kid's crying, and you're like, I'm drowning. I am by myself. I have to figure it out. My husband's at work. That's where he's supposed to be.
Right. Not at home. Right.
He's where he's supposed to be, and that, almost resenting him for going to work was like, why are you at work? I want you to be here. I need help. I want you to help me. Mm-hmm. But you have to, that's, like I said, that's where you're supposed to be.
Right,
so
right.
you can't be mad at him.
Right.
So, I had a moment where I was home alone, and, my baby, she's in the other room. She's crying, probably just hungry, something really simple. And I just had to take myself and just go in my room and just cry. Just go in there, cry, breathe, and say, what's going on? Like,
right.
Self-reflected. And I talk to the Lord all the time. And, a lot of people saying, how do you pray? Stuff like regular conversation.
Yes, ma'am. That's me.
I'm talking about dropping it down. I'm like, Lord, you see what I'm doing. You see what I'm going through.
Right.
Help.
Help.
How can I, teach me how to be better. Teach me how to be a better mom. Teach me how to be a better wife. How in this moment can I be
up.
Okay?
Yeah.
Show up, because I'm tired.
Yeah.
And that's like, that I'm tired statement, covers so much.
Right. No, 100%.
So it's like I'm physically, mentally, I'm just drained. Like, I don't have any more energy, Lord. Like, give me some energy to be able to at least make it till tomorrow.
So your strength really was coming from God, knowing that He was here on the battlefield with you. You weren't alone. So even though you were in your room crying alone, you really weren't alone.
No.
And a lot of times people see that as a perfect way to become the victim of the situation, which is so easy because you don't see people helping. And as you said pointedly, that, you kind of was like semi-resenting your husband for being at work, even though he was supposed to be at work. And so, I hope for the men, if the men are watching this, just understanding that this is not the easiest time. Even if you're not going through postpartum, it's still a lot. And I do believe, I'm not an expert on this, we're just sharing. And of course, we'll provide details in terms of where you can get resources if you're experiencing postpartum and you need more information. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and finish up talking with Mrs. Khadijah Hodges-Bonnom. So, see you soon. All right, so welcome back. We are talking to Mrs. Bonnom here. I'm saying that name over and over because I want to make sure I get it right. And we're talking about postpartum depression, something that a lot of women suffer through, but suffer alone in silence. And so this is her faith walk, walking this thing out and having God right next to her fighting on the battlefields of overcoming. So we're just going to segue back into the conversation. So Khadijah has 2 children, 2 girls. And so with the first, you experienced postpartum. And then with the second one, you also experienced postpartum, but on a different level, a different degree. A different degree. I don't know. Okay. So just give us a little of what that second experience was like for you. And
So with my second child, my husband was actively in the military. So we were in Killeen, Texas. My parents were here in Houston, and he's from Rain, Louisiana.
Okay.
So that's where all his family is.
Ah.
He has a few cousins here in Houston, but
they're all in Louisiana.
Yeah, most of them are in Louisiana. So us being in Killeen, we are 3 hours from Houston. Mm-hmm. So the closest family member we had was 3 hours away.
Wow.
So I had my second child. It was during COVID.
Ooh.
So, yeah,
Ooh.
it was during COVID. So, you could have one person with you. That's it.
Right.
So, with going through pregnancy during COVID, that was an experience within itself. Doctor's appointments by yourself. Getting swabbed almost every other visit, making sure that everything's going okay.
Right.
Having to come back and relay those news to your husband. Then I had my baby in December. Christmas just happened. I had people over the house, just a few.
All right.
But at the same time, you're like, anxiety through the roof.
Right.
So I dealt with anxiety really bad through my whole entire pregnancy. And so once I had my baby, it got 10 times worse.
Woo, 10x anxiety. Woo. Oh, I'm getting goosebumps.
Like 10 times worse.
Okay.
Because, you have a baby in this world that's, people weren't, doing the best that they could to avoid, do their protections. So I had a false positive test for COVID at the hospital. And then they retested me. They're like, oh, no, you were negative. We switched your test with somebody else.
No, they did not. Anxiety, you know what? Why you focus on growth for real? Because, whoo, what a thing to do.
So I was like, what? So, instant panic. And I'm like, whatever it is, I was like, it's okay. So, but I wasn't okay. I was like, I am panicking.
I am going cuckoo right now. Right.
So, I had to labor through that. And then I had, once you're in a hospital setting and they tell you, oh, you have COVID, then they try to distance themselves from you. So I was negative, but they were going off of the positive test. So I had to do the epidural by myself, hold myself over a pillow. Because,
what?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Because they were, it wasn't a close contact thing. Of course it was airborne, but still they would not hold you. So I'm imagining someone who had a positive test going through that experience. No one can hold you. They're iffy about whether they want to deliver your baby. So I'm like, whew. And I'm like, but once they figured out my test was negative, they're like, oh, okay, you're good.
Right.
So then they want to come around and be more warm to you and more. So I'm like, what if I had it, you would have been this cold to the person who does have it?
Wow.
So I just I try not to let that get to me in that moment, but I did think about that shortly after having my baby. But, as soon as I had her, she came in the world, I'm like, okay, you always, as parents, we go, okay, how do I protect this baby?
Right.
Not just from other people, from sicknesses, from harms, from these things as well. How will her sister like her? She's older. And I'm like, okay, all these things start flooding into your mind as soon as your baby comes out. You're like, okay, I need to protect this baby. So we get her home, and I'm like, okay, it's still COVID-y.
Right.
So I'm like, we're not going anywhere. So having a newborn, being at home, basically not really under a mandatory quarantine, but on a self-quarantine. Because like I said, I had anxiety throughout my whole pregnancy, so now it's just worse. So I'm like, okay, if I do take her to the doctor, I bought signs for her stroller, do not come near, covers, everything. I didn't want any risk. Yes. Oh. I had signs, and it's still on her stroller to this day.
Do not come near. Oh my gosh.
Just, because I was in that mode of if she catches this,
you're protecting. Mama Bear is protecting her.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know how to fight this. She's a baby, she's newborn. So I spent, majority of my first 2 or 3 months with my newborn in my house. So, and then once my husband had to go back to work, which was about 8 weeks after, probably less than that, probably 6 weeks after I had my baby, I'm like, you're going back to work tomorrow? And I'm like, so not only am I like, okay, you're going back to work, you're leaving me, even though that's not the idea, but still.
Right, I know, obviously.
You're leaving me, you're going back to work, then you're going to work with people who could possibly be sick. So I'm like,
are we doing this?
Are we really doing this? I'm like,
right.
So I'm making him, take off your uniform, everything in the garage, straight in the shower, because my worst fear was that my baby would get sick.
Yeah.
So I'm being, having that, going through that, and I'm just like, his parents came to visit 2 days after I had my baby. And I'm like,
ugh. Anxiety turned up.
Yeah, so I'm like, and I know that they have, we're pretty safe,
right.
And because they knew I had the baby, I know they took their precautions. It's just in my mind, I'm like,
So it was
No.
more anxiety for the second pregnancy
I
that
had
really.
anxiety, and then once he went back to work, it was just like, okay, he's back at work. It's that whole everything's back on me thing. But not only that, I have another child I have to care for, so I have to show up. I have to get up. She's in school, and I'm just like, how am I going to balance all of this?
Right.
And so it's just I started getting into that, you know, put your kids first, put yourself in the back burner. Don't if you don't get a shower today, that's
It's
fine.
okay. Wow.
If you don't get to this for yourself, that's fine. When he comes home, maybe he'll take the kids, but he's tired too, and I really had
So
to
you're
adjust
like,
that
your
as
brain
well.
is like thinking about everyone else but yourself.
But yourself. And then you're like, okay, and then it's like, okay, well, you ask people, how are you? And they're like, I'm drowning. And then sometimes people don't hear you.
No, they don't. They just ask. I always tell people this: don't ask how I am if you really don't want to know. So
Yeah.
you're gonna get, I'm
like,
fine, I'm good, because like I don't think you really care. You're just like being formal right here.
Yeah,
being
you're
polite.
formal. And but sometimes people do ask you like, and you tell them, hey, I'm not really that good. And they still don't hear. They
don't know
some
what
people
to
don't get
do.
you. Yeah, they don't know what to do.
They're like, oh wow, I really wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, some people don't hear your call for help. Some people don't hear your call for help.
So what do you say to the women who don't feel heard right now? Like they're in the same space that you are, they're struggling, they're not feeling heard. They've said, hey, I'm struggling, I'm drowning. Like, what is your advice to women?
My advice first is, pray, ask for guidance, seek the Lord, stay, ask him where to go. Because most of the time, he will show you which path to take. So, you're like, Lord, I need help. He'll send, somebody might call you in 5 minutes.
Hooray, heard that.
It's just, pray about it and see which path you should take. When I had my second, we were in the military, so they have a lot of Facebook groups, that you can join just to get out. A lot of them I didn't really go to because, it was still COVID.
Right. But you had the support from the groups, and so that's also another way where people can also connect. Is especially if you don't want to be out, which makes sense.
Yeah.
You just had a newborn. Definitely join groups. There's a lot right now with how technology and everything is. There's just so many avenues, and probably people in your area that can help. So. I mean, I love that you said that. And, my question to you is, we're talking about you being a mom, but you also had the role as a wife. And I know you're also in the education field. So how did you tie all of that in, keeping the house together, keeping yourself together? Like, when did you go back to work? Like, how did that look like? What did that look like?
So it took me a while to go back to work.
Okay.
I just recently started. I've been in education for a while, probably since 2014.
Right.
Like in and out. I just recently got back to education, and as you said, I'm going back for a nursing degree because I love children. But that's not my career.
That's not her career. Okay.
I love the children. I do it, when I can. But that's not my career.
So pursuing the nursing degree, what's your end goal? What's your mindset behind going into nursing? Why nursing?
So I love the medical field. It's always been a love of mine since high school.
Right.
I originally went to Lamar to get my nursing degree, but of course other things went other ways.
Right.
My daughter went to. She was admitted to the hospital. She had MRSA. Which was a blood infection.
Okay.
And so staying at the hospital, it just reignited my fire of, what, I want to do this, seeing how much care those nurses give. I'm like, oh, this was my dream job. Why am I doing this? So they kind of helped me be like, okay, yeah, girl, you can go back to school. And I have a friend, she was like, I'll help you.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, because she has 3 boys herself, and, her father of her children did pass away. So she is by herself. She's like, I'll help you, go back to school if you want to. And I'm like, yes, because anatomy and physiology tore me up.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm hoping that you guys are taking notes, really tapping into, self-reflection, self-care, the importance of putting yourself first. Because if you're not good, then nothing else makes sense. And so to prevent that, definitely encourage women to just really look in your area and search online Facebook groups for what might be available for resources. So we're going to take our last break, and then we'll come back and wrap things up. So see you soon. Welcome back. We are here talking with Mrs. Khadijah Hodges-Bonnom, and it's such an amazing topic of conversation, postpartum depression, and just sharing her story. As I said before, this is not the same for everyone. The symptoms are different, and so it's important that we become knowledgeable and become more aware and sensitive to our environment so that we can help those that are around us and ensure that they get the help that they need. And so if you see that person snapping at you, instead of like condemning them and pushing them to the side, maybe it's a cry for help. So as we segue into, we spoke about you going back to school and doing your nursing degree, but you do fun. This is something that in all the mix of it, you are a creator for DIY projects. So what kind of projects do you like to get your hands in? What are you messing with?
Oh, I love all DIY projects. Like, I feel like in a past life, I should have been like an interior decorator. Or a
Okay,
party
you still
planner.
can.
Or a party planner.
You should still do that, perhaps. Okay, so what is it that you do?
I can remodel furniture. I like to paint walls, put up wallpaper, just design different spaces, make jewelry, make bags, make rugs.
Okay, so it's just whatever in that sense you feel led to do.
Oh, yeah. I love DIY
Do you sell any of those stuff?
No.
Why not?
Because I usually put it in my house.
What do you do with all that stuff in your house? You need to get that out there and put your work. Is there any way that we can see your work, the stuff that you do? Do you post on Instagram? Are you a social media baby?
I don't really post. Like, I need to get more back in social media. A lot of people tell me I don't post a lot of pictures of my kids or anything. I'm like,
You don't have to, though.
I
Are
don't.
your kids,
No,
right?
they're like, you don't post. I'm like, I don't know. I said, I do need to post more, and I did say I would try to do that a little bit more, but I'm going to post some more stuff. Like I said, I like to make a whole bunch of different things. Shirts, just trying things.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. And again, women, the beauty about women is that we're so multifaceted, multi-gifted. Mm-hmm. We're doing a lot.
Yes.
But, and it's all so different for everyone. Every woman you meet is not the same. It's not, please don't, loop everybody in, and women don't loop all the men in. It goes the same way, but we're all uniquely different in so many ways, and we're gifted in different things. And so I really love that you still find times to pursue your nursing degree. You didn't let the whole, being a mom take over, being a wife. And sometimes we get, women get all locked into the roles, and then they forget completely about themselves. So self-care is super important. Self-care. Any self-care tips on what you've done to just kind of take care of you? What have you been doing?
So I actually started, going to the spa and taking a Saturday for myself. Most of the time my husband sets it up, but I love the spa.
Okay, me and you, I love the spa too.
You once you try something, you're like, oh, I like this, and I just try to I take at least one day out of the month for myself. So it could be more,
right?
But at least one day out of the month, and just do something for me. Whether it's go to dinner with my friends, or go to the spa, or go get my nails done, get my hair done, or go shopping.
Mm-hmm.
Run his credit card.
The husbands are like cringing at that part. Shopping.
Run his card up.
Oh, I did not say that. Please. Awesome. Well, so now, thank you so much for sharing your heart and just sharing your story and what you went through. I know that's personal, and a lot of women can understand, and also a lot of women also can relate. So as we wrap up, I wanted us to just go into that segment where we go a little bit and just get to know you a little more, see. So these questions I do not have pre-planned, which is probably not good, but I like to free flow. So I guess my first question is, before we do the first question, you need to shout out to hubby. I've been doing that on the last episode because I definitely want to honor the men. And so, you know, your husband being there, doing his part, being a provider, being a husband, being a father, you can talk to him and just tell him how much you feel.
So Sarah Jakes did it, not Sarah, it was the mom, Sarah Jakes' mother. I'm blanking on her name.
Right.
She did it the best though. She was like, shout out to my baby daddy,
Hey.
my boyfriend,
Ooh.
and husband.
Yes.
She said, I love you so much.
Oh, yes. I mean, listen, ladies, I mean, we have to get into the habit of honoring the men that are in our lives. Life isn't perfect. It isn't all roses.
Yeah.
And so while we want them to understand our mess, you know, we got to give them grace and also understand their mess. And it's a partnership. So I love that you know, honor your baby daddy, my
Boyfriend, husband.
I love it. All that. And then some.
And then some. Yeah.
All right. So I guess my question is, what's your favorite date night? Or what would be your mock-up dream date night for you and your hubby? Like if you could do something, there was no restrictions, there was nothing that you couldn't tap into. What would that be? What would your dream night?
See, that is so funny.
Date night. Date night.
So I have two. And real quickly. So the first one would be to get a hotel and just go to sleep.
Okay, fair enough.
So that's
day
one.
Day two.
Yeah, day one is hotel sleep. So, but we're kids at heart, so we like to really just have fun and just do different things. So, you know, miniature golf, go to dinner, have, you know,
Disney.
No, I'm not a Disney girl.
There's a lot of people right now saying, what?
I'm not big on like. I know I'm gonna take my kids eventually. Eventually, I'm not hyped up on it.
You're not hyped up on it.
Maybe if they entice and say maybe we'll go to Disney Paris.
Hey, now there's something Disney Paris. That's on the list.
So maybe one in a different, maybe Disney Shanghai.
Okay, so we're traveling. We like that. I like that.
So, maybe not the one in Orlando or California, but you know.
That sounds good. I love that. Love that. Love that. So is there? So one last question. If you had one thing that you could do for yourself, again, no restrictions, nothing hindering you from doing that one thing for yourself, what would it be? And if it's a place, where would you go?
What I would do for myself.
Like, what's the biggest thing you know?
No restrictions.
No restrictions.
I would probably take myself to Tokyo.
Tokyo? Why Tokyo?
Okay, so Tokyo is my dream. I really want to move to Tokyo. But
no, we want her here. Anyway,
I really wanted to move to Tokyo, but I would take my husband, of course. You know, we travel together. We're travel buddies.
Okay.
So we just came back from New York. So
okay.
Tokyo, just try out. I want to go to a hot spring. I want to go to the rice paddies. I don't want to climb any mountains.
That would be me.
I'm not a hiker. I like walking, you know, as long as there's something to see.
Right.
So I just want to explore a different country. Just go somewhere I've never been. Like I like to, you know, relax and, you know,
take care.
I love it. Traveling is my, you know, my safe space.
That's powerful. Traveling is her safe space. Do you know what your safe space is? You know, and that's something to really tap into. If you know what your safe space is, then you're able to go into that safe space. Yeah. And even if it's dreaming, a lot of times people think, oh, I don't have the money to do that. Oh, I would love to go to Tokyo, but I don't have the money. But you know what? Sometimes you can dream build and start putting together what that trip would look like. That in itself might give you some joy.
Yeah.
Just spending that, like rice paddies or hot springs. Like I wouldn't have thought about any of that. So obviously. So thank you so much for coming on again. I appreciate you sharing, and definitely hope that we have some women and some men who were, you know, inspired, uplifted, encouraged. And as I said, we'll also have Khadijah's details. She's not big on social media. However, we'll try to figure out a way to get some way. So if you wanted to connect with her and just talk, share your own journey of postpartum, and also do that in the comments as well below. We definitely respond to the comments. So thank you so much. All right. See you on the next episode. Bye.